Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, platinum producers, Arkatech Beatz. This is Jugrnaut.
This is Mike Trauma D.
And, together we are the production team of Arkatech Beatz. If you haven't heard of us, we have produced for the hip hop community for a long time. All of your favorite artists, artists still doing it big. King's Disease Part 2 out right now. Shout out to Hit Boy and those guys. Nas, Big Pun, Jadakiss, everybody you love right now. We worked with them, or we've produced for those folks. Just a little housekeeping. If you haven't, if it's your first time to the channel, please subscribe. If you have already subscribed, please share with a friend, right?
Yes, sir.
Every week, what we do, we get together, we talk about music industry topics, questions that artists and independent artists will have. Questions that producers will have, songwriters, etc. So we try our best to use our experience to answer those questions for everybody. So let's get into this.
Yes, sir.
Let's get into this.
Yes, sir.
The first thing people want to ask us, people are asking us is about, what do we do with regards to choosing a music attorney?
Yeah. There's a lot of that. That seems to be like a staple question. Like everyone always asks that. Especially when they're new to the game and they get a contract, or they're working with other people and they get a piece of paperwork. They wonder, well, should I just sign this? It's a small thing. Should I just sign this and get rocking, or should I really have someone really go through it? Even if the piece of paperwork is maybe just a page long, they're trying to figure it out. Like, should I have someone really look at this? You should always have someone look at anything given to you when it comes to business. You should always have a pair of eyes outside of yourself to review it, professionally, and make sure that your best interest is being taken care of. On top of that, you have to also do your due diligence. You also have to know the business. You also have to do the research. You cannot just leave it to your attorney to just do the right thing. You have to go behind it, make sure you're getting what you're supposed to get, and let your attorney know that. Let your attorney know what you want, and let him fight for that. Because at the end of the day, your attorney works for you. So he may just do a deal and just do the basic. He may even miss some things. So you have to follow up, look behind it, and say, no, I want this, I want this, I want that, and fight for those things. Because no one's going to fight for you more than you.
It's one of those things that we always that we went through early on is you have to kind of know. We don't expect you to know everything when it comes to the music business, right? And some folks say, well, why am I hiring an attorney? Why do I need to know this stuff? It's because you do need to know that you do need to have a baseline understanding of what's going on so that you can really articulate and communicate the things that you need with your attorney. Because if you're leaving everything up to the attorney, like you just said, there's a good chance something kind of gets left behind. And the reason why we say that is because the attorney typically is supposed to translate your business language into contract form, right? But you have to know what you want business-wise in order for that to be translated into the contract, right? And I think a lot of times this is where a lot of people kind of get messed up. It's kind of like, oh man, I signed that deal. Yeah, you signed that deal is because of the simple fact that you didn't know what you wanted, or you couldn't understand the language, business wise. Right. So a lot of the situation that we're dealing with attorneys, that I'm seeing is you just have to make sure that you have a rudiment knowledge of the business, right? So we recommend you reading books like Donald Passman's All You Need to Know About the Music Business. There are several more books that you could read that we'll probably review in the future that people need to just read. It's not going to give you everything about the music business, but what it will do is it will give you a baseline that you're able to kind of be able to talk to your attorney and say, okay, when it comes to this type of deal, this is what I should be looking out for. And then you're able to have that dialogue with your attorney that's going to be kind of more robust. Because if you're not able to talk to your attorney and ask for certain things, you'll be surprised certain things will get left out. You know, certain things will get missed. You know, and the mistake that a lot of people make is that, you know, just because you have an attorney is that they're good at business.
Right.
Those things are two different things.
Right.
You know, they're there to interpret a contract. It doesn't mean that they're going to make good sound business decisions for you.
Right. Right.
You know, it's up to you to be able to understand the kind of business decisions that you want to make and what you want to get out of each individual deal. So if you don't know that, then that's going to put you at a severe disadvantage.
Right. Funny enough, not all attorneys know how to negotiate properly. You know,
it's real.
So, you really have to vet your attorneys. You know, figure out which is powerful in which areas, which ones do this better, which one do that better, and see what's best for you. There are many situations where they're good at the paperwork. They're good at handling paperwork, but they're bad at negotiating. You know, they'll just accept whatever is taken. They're not willing to fight the extra, go the extra level for you. And then there's other things where they'll fight for you, but maybe they're bad on paperwork. Maybe they don't get back to you in a timely way. You know, maybe they have 10, 20 different other clients that they're working with and they can't get to you. So there's a lot of different things you would have to look at if you're looking for an attorney. You know, maybe the client list, how fast they respond to you, just your overall vibe, Of course, there's the fee, of course, but there's a lot of other things that go along with finding an attorney that's going to rep you.
And I think that's also the large issue too, is how they're getting paid, right? If they're getting paid hourly, then that has its advantages and disadvantages. When you're getting paid a portion of the deal, right? So let's say they decide to come in for 10% of the deal or whatever that might be, then that's another set of problems, right? Because again, the money's not coming from you, the money's coming from the other party, right? Let's say, for example, you're doing a standard record situation, right? Like a standard producer contract. All right, you're supposed to get paid by the label. Your attorney is negotiating with the label's attorney, right? Okay. You're paying the attorney, but you're not paying the attorney. The money's coming from the label.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't put your attorney in a real position of leverage because they want to get paid for their time. So they're not going to really, not that they're not going to go as hard for you, but can they really go as hard for you? It's kind of a conflicting kind of situation if you think about it.
Like
right?
if your deal is a $5 million deal, the attorney may be good with that. Like, I want to tread lightly because I need a piece of that. But you as the artist, the producer, may be like, nah, I'm not taking that. I know my worth. I'm not taking that. And you're like, yo, I need 20. I need 30. And your attorney may be like, I don't know. like not because you can't get it, but maybe they want to do the sure shot thing and get their money and be done with the negotiating and on all the other things and the time it takes.
And that's what we've seen. We've seen it, where sometimes there is a least path of resistance that they want to take in some cases, right? Mm-hmm. Because, like you said, no one wants to, like if you think about it, right? If we've already perpetuated the deal, the money's basically on the table, right? So it's like, It's not like they've perpetuated the deal. We've perpetuated the deal with our work and what we've put into it. And it's like, hey, such and such wants to pay us X amount of dollars. All we got to do is get the paperwork right on, when you're going to pay it, how you're going to pay it, and how often you're going to pay after that as far as royalties or whatever, etc. So that money's already there for them to take. So they're like, okay, they're going to tread real lightly. They're not going to really kind of push the envelope. But you might say to yourself, that you're worth more, like you just said. Mm-hmm. So it's a situation where if you're not really business savvy, or if you don't really understand what needs to be done, if your attorney has an inflated sense, an inflated sense of worth for you. Like say they think you're worth more than you are, or think you're worth less than you are.
Oh yeah,
that creates another barrier.
Yeah. You're right. So it's like you're saying, it's like, okay, it goes the other way around actually. So now it's like, okay, you're good for the $5 million deal, and your attorney saying no, let's get 20, and you're like, I know,
it's a stretch.
I know the situation. I know what the climate is. As an artist, as a producer, you survey the land. You know what you're supposed to get, but your attorney may be like, no, let's get 20, and he may not be tapped in, to what's going on in the current market. And that's another thing. You want to make sure that your attorney is tapped in, that your attorney has those resources, that they have those relationships, and that they're in the know of what's going on now.
That's a whole nother. That's definitely a situation that we've kind of been in before. But just to give the audience a little bit more insight, like what to look for, you have to look for an attorney. If you've never had an attorney before, and you got a situation and you need an attorney, of course you want to do some research. You want to make sure that the attorney has some good references, or has a track record of dealing with people who have been established into the industry. Now, not to say that you can't work with someone who hasn't had any clients, but you're definitely be in a better position if they've worked with people who are kind of prominent or known inside of the industry, right? That'll help to let you know that they have a certain level of experience and what to expect. The second thing you want to do is you want to see the timeliness of some attorneys, right? Mm-hmm. The one thing that I could say about some attorneys is that some attorneys will get back to you very, very quickly, whereas others will drag their feet. The ones that drag their feet, you have to kind of be very, very, you have to be leery about, right? A lot of these deals are time sensitive, mm-hmm. and things change, right? So when people are interested in your work, we don't know how long that's going to last. So you want to get things, on paper as fast as possible, and you don't want an attorney to drag their feet and be the person that holds up a situation, because typically now, in the way things are being done, they're being done too fast for people to hold up and take weeks upon weeks to finish, very, very small deals in certain cases or whatever. The other thing that you want to look out for is going to be if you want to go a retainer, right? Or if you want to go hourly, or if you want to go portions of the deal. Right. I recommend against portions of the deal, right? Because then you wind up paying your attorney sometimes a lot more than they really should be in bed for.
And
right?
you create a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that as well. So if anywhere where you can get an hourly rate on it, I would always go that route. You might pay a little bit more in the beginning, but you'll pay a whole lot less over the course of time.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing too is just making sure that they're personable, right? Someone that you want to be able to deal with in the long term, because this is an integral part of your team, right? This is not somebody to take lightly, and not to just deal with any old Joe Schmo. This is not the time for that. These are people that you're probably going to be with for a long time, mm-hmm. And you definitely want to have that attorney in your back pocket for a time, because you're going to need them, and you're going to need them to be able to perpetuate deals, as well as help you to get through the deals that you might bring to the table as well.
Well, they are your representation, so
right.
You have to really keep that in mind, that they're the ones that's going to be in your face. They're going to be your voice. So you want to make sure this person is not too soft or not too rough on whoever he's negotiating with. Again, we'll circle back around real quick. Always do your research. Don't leave everything up to the attorney's hands. Look over their shoulder. Make sure you're happy with what you're getting before you give the green light.
And always when you get a deal on the table, right? Somebody sends you something, right? And I think you and I kind of go through this practice. Somebody sends us something, and then we say, okay, what do we want out of this deal? Mm-hmm. Right? And you and I will talk about it. What do we want out of this deal? How much do we want out of this deal? Do we want to work with this person in the future, right? Mm-hmm. And if we want to do that, then we may make certain concessions, right? Because we want to work with this person in the future. We want to make sure that that relationship is strong. So we may say, okay, give a little here to get a little bit more here and there. You know what I'm saying? And then, but we have to. We always talk about what we want out of each situation,
right?
And then that's probably the biggest issue and the biggest hurdle that people don't understand. What do you really want? What are you seeking to accomplish out of this deal? Are you trying to get more notoriety? Are you trying to get more money? Right? And are you covering the basis for what may happen or what may not happen in the future? Right? Are you putting yourself in a position to earn the most if a record really pops off?
Right.
You know, or are you cutting yourself short? So it's just things you got to just make sure that your mind is into, and things that you're looking for, and making sure that those type of situations are going to be handled on the forefront. But you have to understand what you're reading. You have to understand what you're supposed to get. And then you can then have a good dialogue with your attorney, because now you're talking the language. Attorneys don't want to spend time trying to explain to you certain parts of the business. They want to just tell you what's in the contract. But they don't want to be to the situation trying to tell you every nuance of the business, which you should already know.
Right. Right.
So with that said, we have an article on our website, some tips about choosing an entertainment attorney. So you want to, just jump over to www.arkatechbeatz.com. We tend to put those articles there so that you can see the list of things that you need to, look out for when choosing an attorney. Switching gears a little bit, and I definitely want to talk about this thing here, is the NFT space. And then the recent NFT sale of 1 million copies in 57 seconds for Mr. Tory Lanez. So for those of you who do not know, Tory Lanez is an artist.
They know who he is, man.
They know who he is by now, right?
Google him
by now. You should know about the man by now.
Yeah,
I think he's a dope artist. Just relentless in his approach of what he does. Mm-hmm. He recently basically did the NFT, and then the NFT, for those who do not understand what NFT are called non-fungible tokens, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, but just to give people a little bit more light on it, if you want to explain it to them for a hot second and tell them what, or give them an example of what an NFT is, and then we can go into what your man did to kind of change the scope of music.
Think about art in a gallery, and you make maybe one copy. There's one piece of artwork, and you buy that artwork for, let's say, $10. But you have the only one in the world. You have the only one. Now you can resell it. The values goes up based on its popularity and maybe who was a part of it, maybe who the artist is. Now this piece of work may be worth $1 million. Now you could sell it for that, and so forth. Think about the Wu-Tang album that was one of one.
Yep.
It sold $1 million. So it's the same thing, but only in more of a digital space. More of like crypto, as far as cryptocurrencies. It's in that space, blockchain. So Tory Lanez, I believe, had like 1 million copies. Sold each one for $1. Boom. So there's only 1 million out there, and those people who have those, that's it. They're the only ones that have it. Now, if you want it, they could resell it for you for whatever They could sell it for you for $2, and they doubled up. They could sell it for $3, $5, $10, $100, and then you have it, and you have ownership of it, and it goes on from there. But those million are the only people that have it, and that's the thing, and that's what makes it valuable. Like, I got it, and you don't, and you can't get it unless you buy it from me.
It's so sick,
right?
It's
like,
I mean,
that's the simplest way I could explain it.
It's if people really understood what he did, like, you don't, like, you listen. This is the best thing that an artist can do for fans, or the best thing that an artist can do for super fans, right? Because I'm going to call it super fans, right?
Yeah.
Right, because at this point they're just super fans, right? And we're talking about a situation where you got 7 songs on the album. Each song got an individual piece of artwork, digital piece of artwork that's attached to it. Right. Then they're talking about if you have ownership of the NFT in the future, it may grant you access to other things. Right. Which might be concert or whatever. Right. So the resale value, like, that's really where the monster is, right? Because it's kind of like, okay, well, he sold the shit for $1. Like, you know, he ain't making no money. He sold it out. One, he sold out in 57 seconds, right? Because smart people would say, okay, this is not just a regular album. This is an NFT. So I'm going to buy 10 copies, 20 copies, 100 copies, right?
What's $20, $10?
Right.
Buy it, hold it. You
buy it and hold it, because
you buy a thing in your day or in your weeks for triple, quadruple that. Like,
listen, this is
a cup of coffee. You know,
people have to understand the cryptocurrency game to understand the appreciation of a coin, right? Or if you're talking about the Dogecoin, or if you're talking about Bitcoin, when things go from $1 to, you know, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, right? Yeah. This is the NFT space. So something that he may have paid $1 for now, right? He said he sold something before that may have, you know, sold back at $35,000 or some crazy number like that.
Right.
So if we're talking about that now, he got 1 million copies out there. If he adds enough value to that NFT on behind the situation, like, all right, you're going to get free access here, you're going to get access to this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this. Now we're talking about, one, the scarcity is going to drop the price up. That the resale value now, he just put money in the fan's hand. That's really what I really love the most about it.
Right, he did. He absolutely did.
Is he put money in your hand as a fan, gave something back to you, right? So now, like you said, if they go back and they sell that joint for $10 or $100, like, if you bought multiple copies of it, you just put a gang of money in your pocket. People are gonna make so much money off of the fact that he's creating value, because he's the artist creating value to the NFT now, right? Yeah. So that's the difference. So now once it starts trading on the live market, you know, who knows what people are going to pay for it, right? Because it depends on the type of access he's going to give them.
Right.
All right.
And this sets them up for future projects. So the next time he could come around and say, you know what, I'm only gonna do 10 at $100 a pop. I'm only gonna do this, and then you want the fight from 1 million fans to trying to get that 10 would be brutal. They'll be jumping hand over fist to try and get it.
Right, because think about this now, right? Now I'm gonna put some information out there. And Tory Lanez, if you're listening, man, shout out to you, man. Check this out. Here we go. Right, boom, like you just said. Now he just did the 1 million, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Now we're gonna keep bringing it down. It's gonna be 1 million, 500,000, you know, blah blah blah. Right. All right. So now we're gonna get to the point where, listen, you're selling these things for $100,000 a pop. It'll get there if you add in the right kind of access.
Let me give you the kicker, not to be morbid or nothing like that, not to be, you know, but imagine Big or Pac in the NFT space at this time.
It'd be crazy.
Can you imagine what their stuff would be through the roof?
It's crazy. But what's the name of them can do that now? Nas and Jay.
Exactly.
Right? Nas can do that now. Jay can do that now. you know. But again, the NFT has to have some more value. Meaning, like, okay, it's not only just the art of the NFT, but what is the value behind it? What does it give me access to? Right? Mm-hmm. If it's going to give me, you know, what if you get to say, okay, you know, you got special events that you're going to be able to get access to for the next year. Mm-hmm. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, people will pay premium top dollar for that type of stuff or that kind of access. You know, what would you pay for your favorite artist to know you by first and last name? Right.
Free merch, a free show or two throughout in your city.
What would you pay to have dinner with your favorite artist? You know what I'm saying? Like these are the things that people are not talking about. But the other thing that I wasn't sure if I saw it when it came to Tory Lanez situation was, did he assign himself a digital royalty, which I'm sure was already there. Right, because that's the whole point of the blockchain with dealing with NFTs, is that now the original artist can still get royalty regardless of how many times it's resold. Now, if he added a royalty on himself to that,
every time someone auctions it off to someone else, he gets kicked out.
If he put a 10% royalty in that thing, or 15% royalty in that thing, 20% royalty in that thing, then God, it's an infinite amount of money he's going to make. He made $1 million in the short term, but he'll probably make tens of millions in the back end.
But everybody eats.
Everybody eats, B. Everybody eats. That's the dope thing about the NFT, is that if I continue to resell it, everybody eats. I've seen a situation with Nike where they're saying they're trying to come for people who were making, you know, custom shoes because, you know, they were using their stuff and it was trademark violation, et cetera, et cetera.
But the reason that happened to
but the reason why you're coming for them is because you can't share in the revenue. That's really the reason. Like, you can't share in the revenue. They're talking about, we're trying to, you know, protect authenticity and the people who we're really doing collaborations with. No, it's because you can't share in the revenue. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to let those folks, you know, charge those folks, you know, say, hey, if you're going to resell our product, we need 10% of it. You can do it, but we need this amount. You do it like that. They license it to them. You're good.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who wants to go through the policing of that? But that's really what the situation is. So it's one of those things where when I look at the NFT space, man, it's like that being able to capitalize off the resale of the art, it's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal business model.
Basically, the artist and the fan become business partners.
That is it. Right, you now the fans become your business partners, which is just dope to me. It's just dope to me, man. Like, you know, like it's a situation with this, he cannot lose. You can't lose. You know what I'm saying? He may decide, hey, I'm gonna put them all out as NFT if you want them now.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you as a fan, if you have collections of these things, you know. Like, you could have a nice looking website, a nice museum of items, and really come off. You know, like the sneaker collection game is one thing. You know, where there's diehard fans of people. You know, they collect sneakers, different type of, like, Jordans or whatever. Now you take it to this level of digital artwork or digital, you know, these things. That's a whole nother ball game. And on top of that, just you know, the resale value is unbelievable. You know?
So what I noticed is that they set a date. That you'll be able to resell.
Yeah, which is dope.
Right, so which is dope. Like, you're not going to be able to resell it until X date. You ain't going to be able to get it in and just resell it so quickly. So now it's going to take you a little while before you can resell it. And I just think that it's
that's dope. It builds a little bit. It's almost like another release date.
Yes, because for those who didn't get one,
if you ain't get it, this is the release date for the fans. The fans have a release date now for the Tory Lanez music. Tory Lanez dropped his music on a certain date. Now that the fans got it, the fans have a release date now that they can drop it.
Can drop it.
Yo, it's crazy.
It's crazy, man. It's really, really dope. Marketing, whoever's behind the game, telling them, hey, do it this way. And to be the first one to do it. And then it's like, so then the other question is, what does it do for Billboard? Does it come up as 1 million copies? Does it get counted?
That's a good question.
Right? You know, because he did sell 1 million digital copies. Right? Now, you know, it's 7 songs. It's not, you know, it's not a single. You know, if anybody sells 1 million copies in a week, they're supposed to be number 1 on Billboard with a bullet.
Right, because it's not sold as singles. It's sold as a full project.
So it's full project. So it's supposed to, you know, see, and this is where, and now if it doesn't show up on Billboard next week, right, which is a great possibility that it doesn't, it shows us how antiquated those systems are.
Right. Is there a criteria for selling albums as far as sales? How much you charge?
I don't believe there's an amount. I think you can. I think the lowest amount would be the singular dollar, right? So I don't think that there's an amount. You know, as long as he did a title registration, as long as he registered everything with Nielsen, and he's able to basically show where the sales went. Right. Typically, you're supposed to be able to tell them where the sales went by like zip codes or something like that. Right. To show them that you made the sales. Then yeah, that would be it. But there's no other way for you to report it. You'd have to report it yourself as a digital online store. Like all of that stuff would have to be set up prior to.
Right.
Now, if they've done it, then cool. If they didn't do it, then cool. But you don't really need that validation. But that validation would be very, very cool.
So this means that there'll probably be a new chart on Billboard pretty soon.
It should still fall under digital sales, the digital album sales,
but probably more of like an NFT chart because there's so much other things attached to that. Like it may get its own category.
They go, they behind the 8 ball by at least another 2 years.
because you can't even compare the NFT space to just regular streams and that type of, you can't, it's all digital, but it's still its own categories.
And then how do you track the resales? That's a monster, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when it resales, how do you track it? I mean, this blockchain is supposed to be able to be followed. Right. So yeah. The information is there, but who's tracking it?
So basically, Nielsen is probably going to need to have some sort of blockchain technology where they can oversee those things.
I'm telling folks, if you're not in the NFT space, shame on you right now, right? Because it's set to explode. And you know, don't think that you're too late to the game. If you're not in the crypto space, shame on you again. But don't think you're too late to the game. Just try to jump in and try
to learn it first, though. Learn it first.
Yeah, try to learn as much as you can
before jumping in.
It's one of these things that, especially with the NFTs, as you can see it's going to change the game the way that we know it. We got our NFT out, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's on Rarible,
OpenSea, and more will be coming.
More's coming. You know what I'm saying? We got some things out there, so you know, check those out. But at the same time,
but do your research. Do your research. That is very important. That we let them know that you got to do your research with any time you mess with any type of digital crypto any of these things, because if you're not careful, if you're not mindful, if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose it. You can lose it, and there's no trace of it. Like you can see it, but it's gone.
It's telling me poof.
It's poof. Like you watch it, you could watch it go, and you can't get it back.
Just gone.
Right. So spend time doing your research, and if this is something that you feel that you want to get into, by no means.
It's we did an article on ArkatechBeatz.com. It's called "What Are NFTs or What You Need to Know."
Mm-hmm.
Go take a look. You know, it's I won't say that it's very, very in depth, but it's a high level explanation of what NFTs are, and you know, you definitely want to take a read of that and any other information that you can get on the internet about the NFTs, like Mike is saying. It's a situation where if you're not careful, you can lose your shirt.
Yeah.
But if you are careful, you can make a whole lot of money too. So it's something that I shout out to Tory Lanez again for just being a genius with that. That's just it's next level, next level shit. Because I don't think people really understand the implications of it. But you know, we're about to see what it do. Switching gears to one more topic that we wanted to talk about. I think you were talking to me about some producers were asking about, you know, what to do to get placements.
Oh, yeah. That's the age. That's another age old question, you know. And you know, nowadays, you know, a lot of artists, you know, send out their emails, but those get flooded pretty quickly. You know, when they send out their emails through social media, say, "Hey, I'm in the studio," and you know, send beats now, and those things get flooded like in the first 10 to 15 minutes. You know, but there's no one way to get to artists. But one thing I do want to say is that the major artists, like the big names, the one with the major deals, those are the most sought after. Those are the most difficult. And being that there's so few of them dropping projects, those things get flooded real quick trying to get to them. Not saying that they can't happen, but those get flooded real quick. Everybody's trying to get at them, and it's, you know, the game is pretty much oversaturated as is. But there's numerous ways. You know, you could go in through managers, engineers, other producers. But one of the key things that I want to highlight is there are a lot of other artists, and I would say artists that run with the major artists. You know, B artists, C artists. You know, try working with those guys too. You know, don't rule them out. You know, because what happens is these artists are in the circle with the bigger artists. You know, work with those artists, and what happens is it's almost like you graduate. You know, and all the artists they communicate with each other. You just never know when one is gonna ask the other artist for a feature, and it goes from there. There's plenty of times in our career that we say, you know, we like this artist. He's not a major artist, but we like him. We like what he's doing. He may be affiliated with a bigger artist. Let's work with him. And what happens is that young, hungry artist runs around the city, connects with other artists, and our music is actually spread out to other artists all over through features, through word of mouth. And next thing you know, we're not only working with all of the C's and B level artists, but the major artists who these guys are, you know, affiliated with, they get wind of, you know, the music and what they're doing. So it's sort of like daisy chains. So, you know, to wrap it all in a you know, to wrap it all up together, you know, I would say, you know, don't just focus on the big name artists. You know, hit up the young upcoming artists. Hit up the artists that's a little bit more accessible. You know, and flood your music through them as well. You could open up a lot of doors that you wouldn't expect.
It's crazy because that especially when we switch gears from New York to Atlanta, there was a lot of crews, right? Because we were talking about when we came down at the time, it was you know, Ludacris had his set of people, right? It was the Disturbing the Peace folks,
right?
And then you had
Grand Hustle with T.I.
Grand Hustle, T.I.
You had the GCTE. You had Block Entertainment. You had a whole lot of
Duct Tape.
Yeah.
Right? So you have all of these different guys, and that was the approach. The approach was, you know, like you said, like there were artists that were below the other artists.
Right.
Right.
And below just meaning that they didn't have the major deal. Not
yet.
Right. Not that they were any not good, but just they didn't have the major deal. They could easily be the one that's up next.
And that's funny because that happened with a lot of guys that we were talking about. You know, a lot of guys who were, like you said, just didn't have the deal yet. Right. But they were hustling, they were grinding. You know, that might have been a situation with, say, Walker and Gucci, right? Right. Where, you know, because there was a time when we were going to different studios and then we would see Walker, but it was like he wasn't the guy yet. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it was before he became the guy. Same thing with maybe, say, a Trouble, right? Right. Alley Boy had his deal with Warner, and he didn't have his yet. He had just gotten home from prison. Right. So it was one of these things where you work with those certain artists, and then you kind of, like you said, graduate to the next person and the next person and so forth and so on. And I think that's probably a very, very good approach, because those artists that are on those levels who haven't really ascended yet, they're more open to try different songs. They're more open to try different types of sounds, you know, because they're just hungry and they're just recording not relentlessly, right? Right. And then, like you said, they're gonna in most times, those artists have access to the same network, right, as the larger artists, right? Like you said, they just don't have the deal yet. They just don't have the budget yet, but they have the access, meaning they have the relationships with all of those other folks. So I think that that's really a good approach in trying to work with artists who are on the come up and try to grow with those artists as best as you can, because again, the underdog becomes the dog.
Absolutely.
We've seen it happen
over and over,
over and over again, where this guy is not popping now, and you give it 5 years, you know, and people say 5 years, yeah.
And it goes by quick.
It goes by quick. You know, you would be surprised as to how fast that time goes by, but it doesn't happen overnight. That's for sure.
Let me say this: in this music space, do not count anybody out. At any given time, at any given time, the person who wasn't popping yesterday is popping today. The person who lost his job yesterday is the executive someplace else tomorrow. You know, you don't burn bridges, don't do it to yourself. And because those bridges eventually you're going to have to go back over. You see, the music business is very, very small. It's like a high school cafeteria. Everybody's there. You know, whether you're in this corner over there or you hang out over there, you know, this group, that group. The bottom line is everybody knows each other. And everybody's going to be moving around, shuffling different positions. I call it musical chairs, actually, because that's what happens. You know, this executive leaves this label, he goes over to the next label. You know, this person loses their deal, they're over at this label for the next deal. So don't count anybody out.
And definitely don't count out the power of reinvention, right? Because we're not even talking about people who, you know, reinvented themselves. And then, you know, if we're talking about maybe like a 2 Chainz who came in and reinvented and, you know, part of Player Circle, and all of a sudden then it changes and then he's the next thing. Or if you're talking about maybe a Gilly and Wallow type situation. Right. Or 1 minute you're not really paying attention to what was happening musically, and then they become the biggest podcasters in the game.
I mean, even Nori.
Yeah, same thing with him. I was going there, and Fat Joe's going that lane again. Not to say that he's lost any luster, but, you know, he's reinventing his situation, and they're building something bigger, right? Mm-hmm. A Versus will change your life, right? Right. Somebody that you wasn't really checking for, and then all of a sudden, it's the biggest thing since ever. You know, since sliced bread. When we talk about, say, like maybe the Dipset Lock situation, where now everybody's talking about Jadakiss, but he been told you he was top 5 dead or alive. Yeah, told you that.
they said his albums, like at least 5 of them, is back in the top 200, and as 200+% increase.
Crazy. It's crazy, man.
You
That's
know,
crazy.
just
Man.
because of that. You know,
That's crazy, man. But I think he gets his just due. All of his albums should have been, 500,000 sold at very least.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now he gets the look that he's supposed to get. And to quote Fat Joe, yesterday's price is not today's price.
Facts. That's exactly what it is.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's exactly what it is.
And I love it. Don't count him out. Don't count anybody out.
Don't count anybody out.
Don't count anybody out. The game is, like you said, it's evolving. It moves too fast. It changes too fast, and everything has the potential for virality.
So keep those relationships.
Any other tips for helping folks try to get their first placement going? Oh, you may have to give away free music. Don't sleep.
Yeah. You may have to give away some teasers, some testers. You may have to do that, just to get the ball rolling, just to get some experience in as well, so you know how things are moving, what to do, you got to give and take, and as we touched on earlier when we was talking about negotiation, it's about knowing what you want, and at times you have to figure out, okay, you got to give and take. You got to say, okay, I'll do this, I'll let that go, but I know that this is going to be better off in the long run. You got to play the long game. You got to know that, okay, I want this placement. What am I willing to do to get it? Or what am I gonna say, nah, I'm not going to do it? Because what could happen is you could lose the placement, and then you're like, man, that placement could have really helped my career as far as credits, promotion. There's so many other things that could go along with it that's outside of just getting the initial advance money or whatever the case is.
Right.
So you have to look at the whole scope.
And we've done that, on certain occasions. Like let's keeping it a stack with folks for our first placement.
Big pun.
Big pun. We did not charge for an initial producer fee up front. Right. We said, hey, we'll take all our back end and our publishing, whatever, but just to make sure we made that album. Right.
And the thing is, it was there. The money was there.
Yeah.
The budget was there. Yeah. But I think, our record was the last record.
One of the last records to get recorded.
Was right. And it was a crucial record because it was the title track of the Capital Punishment album. And I specifically remember telling Pun, nah, we don't need an advance for this. Let's just rock. And the look on his face, he ran and called up Joe, and just those moments, it forms a relationship. It forms something because they know that you're rocking with them. At that moment, he knew that it wasn't just about the bread. He wants to be part of this project. They want to work. They want to, and the amount of thanks that we got from Pun just for that gesture, that alone was priceless. And because of that album continuously keeps feeding us. That album continuously keeps opening doors for us, from anniversaries to all sorts of tributes to all sorts of stuff. So you just never know, where it will go. You just have to keep the bigger picture in mind. Everything isn't always the fast buck. You have to think long term.
And then the other thing on that too is that we're not Pun put us on every project that he was on after that.
Yeah.
Right. Because then we went on to do the second album, to do the Leatherface. Then we did the the Triple Threat on the first Terror Squad album.
Right.
Yeah. So, like you said, he rocking with us now, and no matter what he was working on, we was going to be part of it while he was alive.
Right. Just because of that first gesture, which forged a relationship that just grew from there.
Yeah. That's definitely a jewel that people have to make sure that they're taking. It's like, you got to know, the relationship. The relationships are, the relationships will relationships are like what I who says this? I think Wallow say this. Relationships are worth more than money, right? It's you know it's going to, you know, if you have the right relationships, you'll never go hungry.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on this before about opportunities and doing good business. You know, on the last cast, doing good business will allow future business. You know, people remember those things. You know, so having a good relationship coincides with that. Having a good relationship, a good working relationship, you know, being courteous, cordial, respectful, you know,
Professional,
all of these things, and when you behave like that, when you act accordingly, when you stand up like that, you know, these people remember that, and they come back to the table like, yo, I remember what you did for me last time. But you know, this time I got my budget is there, or I got this going. Let's get you right, you know. So you know, don't burn any bridges. Do good business, you know. And don't count anyone out. You know, A artists, B artists, C artists. You know, treat them all the same. You know, give them the heat.
yeah. Give them dope beats. If you got good music, give them good music. You know, and you can, like you said, you don't know who's gonna pop. You just don't know.
And you don't know who's gonna be the feature. You know, that happens to us all the time. We give a C artist a beat, he goes and gets an A artist on it. They're like, oh.
Right.
It happens all the time. Or the A artist actually says, you know what? Let me get that record. And now the A artist makes the C artist the feature. You know.
That happens too.
These things happen. You know, so don't count anyone out, and if you do that, if you keep that in mind, and you keep a strong business sense, you know, you'll be able to thrive in this music business. You'll be able to have some longevity in this music business, and once you have a good name in this business, opportunities will continue to keep rolling in.
That's the realest thing you could say. Like, once you got a good name, man. Like, folks are always gonna come check for you. May not be today, maybe next year or whatever, but somebody will always be checking for you. Yeah. Once your name is good. You know, that's probably the biggest key you gave today. Like, yo, make sure your name is good, man.
Yeah.
But this is Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks.
Yes, sir.
Follow us at www.arkatechbeatz.com. Mm-hmm. We're on all platforms at Arkatech Beatz. Facebook would be Arkatech Beatz Online. IG, Arkatech Beatz. Every place else, Arkatech Beatz.
Arkatech Beatz. we hope we provided you with some information, some tips, you know, to maneuver through this business. You know, it could be kind of crazy and hectic, but
it is.
You know, but you know, and not everybody will, you know, give you the information you need. But here at Arkatech Beatz, you know, we giving you that information. You don't gotta make the same mistakes we made.
Listen. I would have paid for that, man. I would have paid to have the situation for us to not have to make those mistakes on our own. You know, it saves you an insurmountable amount of time. Like, you know, it's the time that you save by not making the mistakes and having to rebuild back from the error that you made. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the key here, you know, and, you know, we're at the point in our careers where we can do that. We can say, okay, we're going to give back some information. We're going to give back some game, and we're going to let people know, listen, don't do it like this, do it like that. You know, don't make that mistake. You know, don't sell yourself short. Especially with it being the game changing the way that it's changing.
Yeah. Free game.
Yeah, free game, you know what I mean? So with that, everybody, until next week, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend.
Peace.
We out.
Arkatech